All right, ready to dive deep. Today, we're heading straight into the heart of New York City.
But we're not talking typical tourist traps and must-sees.
Nope. We've got something much better. We're going deep with a local, someone who really knows the city inside and out.
We're talking born and raised, lived and breathed New York City.
Exactly. And they're spilling all the tea on their favorite spots, hidden gems, and, yeah, maybe even a few places they think you can skip.
It's like having your own personal guide, but way more honest and fun.
Totally. So let's start, I guess, with the most important part of any trip, the food.
The fuel for any good adventure, right?
And our New Yorker, they're obviously a total foodie.
Big time.
They rave about this place, Franklin Park, for happy hour.
But it's more than just like, oh yeah, it's good. They give you specific.
Yeah, like between 4 and 8 p.m. specifically.
For the 21 and over crowd.
So they're really paying attention to the details.
The kind of stuff that can make or break your experience, right?
Hey, now get this. This is hilarious. They ordered 2 burritos at Tacome.
2. What were they?
Okay, so one was a sweet potato, kale, and poblano burrito, and the other was a spicy bean and cheese.
Wow. That's commitment.
Right. Oh, and a margarita, obviously.
Of course. It's a whole vibe.
And their description, like the way they talk about the food, they say the tortilla is like soft and crispy.
Interesting.
And that the cheese has body.
Whoa, okay. I've never heard cheese described like that.
It's like you can almost taste it just from their words.
Makes you want to hop on a plane and go try it yourself.
Right. And this love of trying everything, it kind of comes from their dad. He was all about asking locals for recommendations.
Smart man. Who knows a city better than the people who live there?
Totally.
Yeah.
Though our New Yorker, they thought it was super embarrassing at first.
Ah, come on. Everyone's a little shy sometimes.
But they eventually gave it a shot and ended up finding the best burrito of their life.
See? Sometimes you gotta step outside that comfort zone.
Okay, now this is where things get a little interesting. Our source says Ralph's coffee is overrated.
Uh-oh, hot take alert.
But then they recommend the vanilla latte.
Wait, what? So is it good or not?
It's like a guilty pleasure, maybe. Like, it's not the most authentic spot, but sometimes you just crave that specific taste.
Yeah, I get that. Sometimes you just need that familiar comfort.
Okay, speaking of taste, their coffee preferences have evolved. They're all about nutty cold brew these days.
Nutty cold brew. Fancy.
They even say it's a sign of maturing, moving on from those milky lattes.
Ooh, personal growth and coffee. I love it.
Though they do admit to a lifelong love of almond milk, even with, those little floaty bits.
We've all been there. Almond milk, it's a love-hate relationship sometimes.
And speaking of love, this source is a self-proclaimed chocolate chip cookie aficionado.
Okay, so we're talking serious cookie business here.
And their new favorite, Chip City. They describe these cookies as gigantic and surprisingly moist, even though they look kind of dry.
So another don't judge a book by its cover situation. I'm sensing a theme here.
Right. Okay, let's step away from all the delicious treats for a sec and move on to another classic New York activity, shopping. Our source is a big fan of vintage finds and sales.
So like thrifting and bargain hunting, that's my kind of shopping.
They specifically mention 260 Sample Sale and L Train Vintage.
L Train Vintage, I've heard good things about that place.
And apparently L Train Vintage has a less expensive offshoot called Concrete Jungle.
Oh, even better. More bang for your buck.
And get this, they talked about finding this unique home decor item with strawberries on it and just like impulsively buying it.
Okay, that's a total mood. Sometimes you just gotta go with your gut.
Right. And when it comes to shopping neighborhoods, they're all about Soho.
Soho, classic New York chic, but also notoriously expensive.
Yeah, but our source specifically mentions finding things on sale there.
Savvy shopper. They know how to get the good stuff without breaking the bank.
Okay, ready to get out of the shops and explore some parks and public spaces.
Let's go. What kind of green spaces are we talking?
And get this, our source. They have a deep love for the subway.
The subway. Really? That's not usually on the top of people's must-see lists.
I know, right? But they talk about it as this like amazing opportunity to see all these different people from all walks of life, all just like together.
I guess I never thought about it that way. It's like a microcosm of the city, all crammed into one train car.
Exactly. They even call it a rare opportunity for various people of New York to be together, which is like kind of beautiful when you think about it.
It is. It's like this unexpected moment of unity in the midst of all the chaos.
But here's the catch. They also have a bit of a phobia of falling into the subway track.
Oh no, that's a legit fear.
So they prefer to walk, even if it means getting lost.
Honestly, sometimes getting lost is the best way to discover a new place. You stumble upon things you never would found otherwise.
Right, it's all about embracing the adventure. Now, when it comes to actual parks, they have a soft spot for Washington Square Park,
Washington Square Park. Classic.
especially for picnics, apparently.
Oh yeah, perfect picnic spot.
And of course, there's Central Park. They describe it as having this serene feeling that sets it apart.
It's funny how a place that's so iconic and like in the middle of everything can feel so peaceful.
They even shared this funny anecdote about, well, let's just say their first time experiencing Central Park in a slightly altered state of mind.
Ooh la la.
Okay, hot take number 2 incoming. They're not a fan of Times Square.
Oh, come on. Everyone loves Times Square. All the lights, the energy. It's like the heart of New York.
I know, right? But they describe it as so much going on and nothing going on at once.
Okay, I can kind of see that. It's definitely sensory overload.
But even they can't resist those delicious Times Square almonds.
Hey, sometimes you got to give in to the tourist traps, right? Especially when they involve delicious snacks.
Okay, last stop on our Whirlwind Park tour. The iconic Empire State Building.
Ah, the Empire State Building. You can't go to New York without seeing it.
Right. But our source, get this, at first they weren't even sure what it was for.
No way. Talk about playing it cool.
They start off calling it overrated, but then they kind of warm up to it.
I guess some things you just have to see for yourself to appreciate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They even end up giving it an 8.5 out of 10, which on their strict rating scale, that's high praise.
Wow. So they must have really been impressed.
All right, that was quite a trip, right? What do you say we take a quick break and come back to unpack some more of their New York wisdom?
Sounds good to me. I'm ready for round 2. Welcome back. It's amazing how much you can learn about a place just by listening to someone's personal experiences.
I know, right? And remember how our New Yorker talked about both loving the subway and being terrified of falling onto the tracks?
Oh, yeah, that was a good one.
Well, that fear actually leads them to walk a lot, even if it means getting lost.
Honestly, sometimes getting lost is the best way to discover a city, right?
Totally. It's like you never know what you'll find around the next corner.
A hidden alleyway, a cute little cafe, a street art masterpiece.
Exactly. It's all about the adventure. And sometimes those hidden gems aren't even places. It's the people you meet along the way.
Ah, the human connection.
Like, remember how they talk about their dad always encouraging them to talk to locals, get their recommendations?
Yeah, that was a good story.
They thought it was super embarrassing at first, but then they tried it and bam, best burrito of their life.
See, it pays to be a little brave sometimes.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Remember how our source is all about that nutty cold brew these days?
Oh yeah, the sign of a true, mature palate.
They even called it a sign of, like, personal growth.
It makes you think, right? Do our tastes really change as we get older?
Maybe it's not even about the taste itself, it's about what it represents, you know?
Like a deeper understanding of what we truly enjoy.
Totally. Although, even with this newfound appreciation for fancy cold brew, they still can't resist almond milk, you know, with all those little...
Oh, the floaty bits. Don't even get me started.
Almond milk, it's complicated.
But speaking of complicated, let's circle back to those Chip City cookies.
Ah, yes. The behemoths.
Surprisingly moist, apparently.
Which is saying something, considering how many amazing bakeries there are in New York.
That must be pretty special.
It's funny how sometimes the most unassuming places have the best surprises.
Like you think you know a city and then bam! A giant delicious cookie comes out of nowhere.
You know, one thing I really appreciate about our New Yorker is how honest they are about their changing opinion.
Oh yeah, like with the Empire State Building.
Exactly. They started off all overrated, but then they actually went there.
Yeah.
And
They had a change of heart.
totally ended up loving it.
I guess sometimes you got to see things for yourself to really appreciate them.
And maybe it's those unexpected details that change your perspective.
Like, what if they ran into someone they knew at the top? Or they saw the most amazing sunset ever?
You never know.
That the little things, right?
Speaking of little things, remember how our source used to be embarrassed by their dad asking locals for recommendations?
Oh yeah, they thought it was super cringe.
But now they totally get it.
It's like a full circle moment.
They realize that those little moments of, like, vulnerability can lead to some of the best experiences.
Because you're putting yourself out there, trusting people to guide you.
And it's not just about getting good recommendations. It's about connecting with people, seeing the city through their eyes.
It's about embracing the unknown, right?
Totally. And you know what? Before we move on, I have to share this quote from our source. It perfectly sums up this whole idea.
Ooh, lay it on me.
Okay, so they say, growing up, my dad would always go around and ask people, like, hey, what's a good place to get a dinner? Hey, what's a good place to get coffee? Hey, and I was always like, stop, Dad. Like, that's so embarrassing. Like, that's so embarrassing. That's cringe. And then I tried it for myself today, and I had the best burrito I've ever had. I got some cute new home decor, and I ended up in some magical places. I also ended up in some expletive, awful places. But funny enough, those were the places that people told me not to go to. Like, it was my fault for going to Times Square.
I love it. So true, right? Sometimes you strike gold, sometimes you end up in, well, Times Square.
It's all part of the adventure.
Exactly. The ups, the downs, the unexpected detours, the moments of pure joy.
So as we head into the final part of our New York journey, keep that quote in mind.
Embrace the unexpected.
Let go of that need for control and just see where the city takes you.
Sounds like a plan.
All right, so we're wrapping up our New York deep dive with, well, a few more of our locals' favorite spots. Remember how they were all about Washington Square Park?
Yeah, they practically declared their love for it. Picnics and everything.
I know, it's like their little oasis in the city.
Makes sense. Everyone needs a place to escape the craziness.
And they didn't just stop there. They mentioned the Brooklyn Bridge, which is, practically a park in itself, right?
Totally. And a few others. Seward Park, Fort Tryon Park.
It's like they have a whole park bucket list.
Well, they did say they like to walk a lot.
True.
Yeah.
But out of all of them, Central Park definitely holds a special place in their heart.
It's more than just a park. It's like a cultural icon.
Like the park from all the movies and TV shows come to life.
Exactly. And our source, they've clearly had some memorable times there.
Oh, yeah. Let's just say they've experienced Central Park from every angle.
I bet they have some stories.
Okay, speaking of places that spark strong opinions, remember Times Square? The one they kind of,
Hated.
yeah, basically. They called it so much going on and nothing going on at once.
Honestly, it's pretty accurate.
But even they couldn't resist the lure of those Times Square almonds.
Who can? It's like a rite of passage.
Okay, last one. The Empire State Building. It's funny how they went from overrated to
Obsessed.
pretty much.
Mm.
I think that 8.5 out of 10 rating says it all.
It's a reminder that sometimes you gotta see things for yourself to form an opinion.
Totally. Maybe they caught a killer sunset or something that totally changed their perspective.
It's the little things, right?
Speaking of little things, you know what really stuck with me from all of this?
What's that?
How their whole view on asking locals for recommendations, the thing they used to think was so embarrassing.
Oh, yeah, their dad's little trick.
It totally changed. It's like they realized it's not about being awkward or whatever. It's about, like, opening yourself up to new experiences.
Trusting people, letting go of that need for control.
Exactly. And, when you think about it, it applies to more than just travel.
How so?
It's about being open to new ideas, new perspectives, talking to people, even if it's a little uncomfortable at first.
Because you never know what you might learn.
So there you have it. New York City, through the eyes of a local.
A real, honest, hilarious local.
It's a reminder that the best adventures often start with just, like, a simple conversation.
Or a really good burrito.
And that wraps up our deep dive. We hope you're feeling inspired to go out there and explore with open eyes, open hearts, and a willingness to, well, maybe get lost every now and then.
Until next time, happy travels.